All right, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I mean, I've known you for years, but usually I have guests who come on the show quickly in their own words introduce themselves. Like, so who are you and what do you do?
We do go back high school Valley days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Valley alumni. So my name is Nicolette Garcia. I am the Director of Development for the Alzheimer's Association New Mexico chapter. We are a national organization that has local community presence, right? So we're the New Mexico chapter, and I guess I could tell you a little bit about how I got
Yeah.
here. I mean,
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. A big part of what I'm doing is obviously highlighting the organization, but also
right.
your journey, right? Because you are the reason I reached out. I've
Yeah.
seen what you've done, but also you are working with this organization. So, I think the insider perspective as well is important. But yeah, a little bit about you. You're from New Mexico,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Born and raised. Yep. Born and raised in New Mexico.
Okay.
Um, I'm like a lot of other millennials, after high school, after college, I had a choice to stay or go, right? Which a lot of
Uh-huh.
us went, a lot of us stayed, right? What did we do? And I decided to stay in New Mexico to try to help my
Okay.
community reach its potential, right? I think New Mexico
Hmm.
has so much that is untapped and that just has a
Sure.
very it's just special to me, not just because I'm from here. I think a lot of people see that and experience that when they come to New Mexico, so I wanted to stay. And so after college I got involved, like most, I think, millennials do, in
Hmm.
politics, and just getting elected officials into positions where they would have impact, and that I would feel like I was actually having a significant impact in my community.
Okay.
Tried that, wasn't for me. Definitely
Okay. Okay.
skedaddled, got out. And so nonprofit just was a better fit for me. I came to the Alzheimer's Association actually with a personal reason. I was my grandfather's caregiver the last 4 years of his life. So when
Oh,
I was going to
okay.
UNM, when I was going to UNM, I was living with my grandparents, and it's a very like Hispanic family thing. I was living in the apartment above the garage, right, while going to college, because it was
Okay.
free rent, right? And
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
grandparents were happy to help out, but I started noticing things with my grandpa that I kind of was like, grandpa's not okay. It's not
Hmm.
just normal aging. Something is going on here, right? Sure
Sure.
enough, he got the diagnosis, and he passed away about 4 years later in the middle stages of the disease, but it was due to complications to the flu. So he didn't actually pass away from Alzheimer's disease, which is, I mean, that does happen. The immune system is completely
Hmm.
wrecked when you have that disease, right? So you're more susceptible to viruses. And in this case, he did get the flu and he passed away from pneumonia, but it
Yeah. Yeah.
changed my life because at a very
Okay.
young age, I experienced something that was so, I mean, I'm going to use the word traumatizing. As a 23-year-old, 24-year-old young
Hmm.
woman,
Hmm.
I was 24/7 caring for someone that could not care for themselves, and that was
Yeah.
actually a danger to themselves if they were not cared for, right? So it was just a huge burden on me. And
Absolutely. You were young,
yeah,
right? You were very young when all that happened. That's very,
yeah.
I think we're all, many of us are impacted at different points, but and I have my own anecdotes as well. But more than anything, I want to touch on how you as a person, you've always seemed to have had that kind of desire to help others, that you help your community.
Yeah,
What do you attribute that to?
it's a really good question. I've actually never thought about it. I guess, yeah, you kind of got me there. I think
Yeah.
it's that I see improvements. I see, like, it's almost like a problem solving thing in my head where it's like,
Okay.
hey, I see where the improvement can help people. Like, let's do it. Let's make it happen, right? Like, what's
Hmm.
stopping us from making it happen? And just that drive to have change and then actually seeing the impact. I guess it's all about just like self-fulfillment and reward in a way,
Hmm.
but also
Hmm.
I truly find joy in seeing positive impacts in people's lives, right? So I think I've
Okay.
always had that, even as a
Hmm.
teenager when you and I knew each other, like
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
always had that. And it's pushed me to where I'm at now, which is with the organization and having mass scale impact now. So it's, yeah, I guess
Okay.
it served me well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Many people are surrounded by that early on, and it's rarely. I mean, I would say even like in your case, as was mine, it's not until you're impacted directly that you really start paying attention to whatever specific issue or cause, right? And it sounds like that's what it was for you. Um, which is very important. I mean, want to be when you grew up? What did you study in college?
It's a great question. So I actually wanted to work for the Department of State. I wanted to work at embassies around the world. I wanted to work for the
Hmm.
UN, something international relations, right? Because that's what my my bachelor's degree is in international relations, and my master's is in international security. So I
Hmm.
definitely wanted to be in that realm. Definitely did not land there, and I'm okay with that. I think a
Okay,
part of
yeah.
me still has like a little bit of, there's a little
Hmm.
burn for that, but I wouldn't change what I'm doing for anything. It's definitely where I should be.
Absolutely. So I think a big part of, I'm curious as to how, at what point, what besides, was it just your grandfather, or was there something that happened, I guess, in your career that really kind of directed you in this other direction?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
actually will be completely transparent and honest with you. I was really
Yeah.
disenchanted with some of the elected officials I worked with and for, some of the government departments I worked with and for, and how they did not value myself as a young professional as an expert in my field. And I just felt like no matter what I put in a report, it's not going to make a difference in changing what that person is going to decide to do. So I kind
Huh.
of felt like my hands were tied and I didn't feel valued and I didn't feel like I was making the difference I wanted to make because there
Okay.
was so much bureaucratic politics happening
Yeah.
that I just thought I'm not even going to go into that. I'm going to go into a realm that I can
Hmm.
have a direct impact and my voice will matter.
Yeah, I mean, that makes absolute sense. And it's very similar to my experience in realizing that it's not that they want to fix the world, it's that the issues are very solvable. It's that they don't, it's a money thing,
Right.
right? It's kind of a business. Government is business,
Right.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
there's no desire. It's not profitable to solve these issues. Because if you
Yes,
solve the
that's
issues, then what are they going to get reelected on?
right. We won't have
Right?
anything to campaign on.
Yeah, or all these different things, whether it's at the international level, etc. So I mean, there's so much going on in the world, but I won't bother with that. So how was that transition? Was this the first nonprofit that you worked for?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it was
Uh,
definitely interesting. So yeah, it was like kind of a perfect storm between being totally disenchanted and happy with the career I was in,
mhm.
my grandfather passing away from the disease,
Sure,
with the
sure.
disease, and that was kind of like a no-brainer. I was like, you know what, I'm going to see if the Alzheimer's Association has something available
Mm,
because I had utilized their resources when I was a
mhm,
caregiver.
mhm,
And I'm like, I don't care what position it is. I think I just want to work there. Like, I don't care what I'm doing, And so,
mhm.
um, yeah, this is the first nonprofit I've ever worked for. And I've been with the organization. I'm going into my fourth year.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's amazing. So I mean, before Alzheimer's is quite the topic, and people have like a big idea, kind of a very big picture idea of what it is, right?
Right.
How much did you know before jumping in?
Well, I mean, fortunately and unfortunately for me, I knew quite a bit. I knew more than a than a 28-year-old should know about Alzheimer's and dementia.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? And about the disease process, about disease impact, not just on the individual, but on families, on the economy. I knew way more than I should have known. But and it was because of my experience with my own family and my
Mm-hmm.
grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding regarding the disease. You know, I think
Yeah.
still in our communities here in New Mexico, there's still a lot of notions that, oh, grandpa's just old, right? Grandma's just, that's just
Hmm.
what happens when people get old. They just assume that that's normal and that grandpa just forgets things, or grandpa or grandma
Hmm.
walks around in her bathrobe all day long, right? Like whatever it may be,
Yeah, that's just
it's
what old
kind of
people do,
it's a
right?
stigma, right? It's
It's
kind of
written
written off
off.
as like,
Hmm.
that's just what happens and grandma's crazy. But
Yeah,
and no one wants to
yeah,
talk about it. No one wants to go to the doctor, but they don't want to know, they don't want to find out. And so at
yeah,
the
yeah.
association, we're trying to kind of combat that and really do some really strong concern and awareness campaigns, mass marketing, to kind of get the word out there that it's okay. You may have this and it's
Hmm.
okay. And it doesn't mean that you should be embarrassed. It means that you need help. And there's lots
Yeah.
of resources and help to help you go through this journey of Alzheimer's. You're not alone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that what I guess that, what makes me, what the thought that comes to mind is when you say that people perceive that just being an old person's behavior.
Mhm.
How much of this do you feel is cultural? And how much does culture get in the way of, would you say, or kind of hold people back from getting help?
Mhm. Yeah, there are definitely, I think, cultural barriers when it
Hmm.
comes to this disease and a lot of different
Sure.
facets of it. I mean, one of them just being like uh, getting a diagnosis, right? Going to the doctor. I
Yeah.
think there is a stigma, and I think there's a lot of cultural, I guess, norms that play into families, either how they deal with the disease, whether it's not getting a diagnosis, whether it's just accepting and writing it off as something that is normal, whether it's
Hmm.
even caring, right? I feel
Hmm.
like that's part of Hispanic, Latino culture. I mean, it wasn't really an option for my grandpa to go to a home, even though now in my capacity, I work with so many long-term care facilities and they're all amazing. And if I look
Hmm.
going back,
Hmm.
I totally would have, if I had known then what I know now, totally would have should have been an option for the family.
Yeah.
But as a Hispanic family, we
Yeah.
was like, oh no, we can't put grandpa in a home. Like that's
It's
like our
very family
pride,
oriented,
our
right?
family pride. No, we don't do
Hmm.
that, right?
Yeah.
To our elders. And so I do think there's like I said, there's a lot that goes into that kind of those cultural I don't want to call them barriers. That's the wrong word. I can't think of the word right now, but definitely they're factors, cultural factors.
They're, I mean, they're challenges, right?
Yeah.
They're not, it's not a bad thing. It's not a
Yeah.
bad thing because culture is a very important thing. But sometimes, yeah, and I think that comes with like this desire to decolonize, right, ourselves, which is
Yeah.
very important. But how do you kind of um mitigate that with, this idea of just Western medicine and this stuff, that some of this is very helpful, especially when it comes to end of life, elder age sort of stuff, right? That everyone really goes through.
Right.
Not everyone gets, dementia or Alzheimer's or all these diagnoses. Some people are fine until the very end, but what I've noticed with end of life, everyone starts slipping with their memory at the end, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just it's a normal part of life.
Yeah, cognitive decline is
Hmm.
100% normal. We are all going to get cognitive decline. Where we
Okay.
see, and if we can get into the science of Alzheimer's or dementia,
Hmm.
the difference between normal cognitive decline, which is what you're talking about as we age, yeah, and the
Hmm.
older we get, it's going to happen. The difference we see with dementia and Alzheimer's is there's a morphological change in the brain that happens with these diseases that is not normal cognitive decline. So there's
Right.
kind of, it
Yeah, it's accelerated.
it veers at some point,
Hmm.
and you now are experiencing symptoms that are a result of this morphological change in the neurotransmitter in the brain.
Okay, it's very
So,
interesting. So can you, I mean, I'm assuming you've learned a lot. You've been there for 4 years, and there's a lot of jargon and there's a lot of there's a big
yeah.
medical aspect, right? And I mean, the research, do you feel equipped to maybe answer some of these questions, field some of these questions?
I will do my best, and I'm definitely not afraid to tell you I don't know the
Good.
answer, Oscar. So I'll get back to you. So I'll definitely do my best. One thing about our organization is we are definitely data driven and a science-based organization.
Hmm.
We have, I mean, just currently we're investing over $250 million in over 750 projects in 39 countries in research, right? So they try to keep us as employees as kind of ambassadors of the organization, as well versed as possible
That's
in the
great.
science and the
Yeah,
research. We do quarterly research webinars to stay up
that's
to date
awesome.
on what's happening. So I'm going to do my best, and if I don't know, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. So it's the one person that I know personally, I mean, that got dementia and Alzheimer's was my great grandmother. She passed away December. I remember vividly. It was 10 or 11, December 26, 1999. Right. I remember it because it was right before Y2K and net scare. But you know, she was she quickly forgot like a lot of stuff. I mean, she had it for years, but she started forgetting how to like um she couldn't speak after a while, and she was able to walk around. She confused me for my father. Yeah, I remember I have some very good memories of her, but my entire life she had dementia, right?
Right,
So it was a very interesting kind of experience for me to ever interact with this person as a completely different human than how the rest of my family knew her.
right.
But there was a lot of myths, I feel, in my family as to how she got it.
Mm,
So they would, and I feel like debunking these myths is very important. Um, there was this idea that she was using a specific kettle way too long, and it was like a type of metal poisoning, right? Stuff like that. And I'm sure there's tons of stuff out there, and there's stuff that I've read, with the impact of sleep and not
right,
being like the main cause, but not helping it, right? So,
right.
uh, is there a root to it? Is there a cause?
So as of right now, we don't have a definitive answer on what is the cause of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
dementia or Alzheimer's specifically. With the exception of, no, there is no exception. Yeah, we're a little bit closer when it comes to like vascular dementia, because we know vascular dementia is caused from, the cardiovascular system, right? I mean, it
Oh.
happens when fluctuations in blood pressure. It happens. Sometimes people experience temporary vascular dementia, where if they've had like a stroke
Mm-hmm.
or something, and it's a temporary
Mm-hmm.
thing. So that's kind of a separate category than some of the other forms of dementia, and specifically Alzheimer's. So the answer
Mm-hmm.
is, we still don't know the cause. We do know what is causing it in the brain, but we don't know what causes that in the brain. So let me explain that. So
Yeah.
there are two proteins that we've identified to be the root cause
Mm-hmm.
biologically in the brain for Alzheimer's disease, and it's
Okay.
the amyloid and the tau proteins that build
Mm-hmm.
up on the neurotransmitters. And it's basically like plaque. That's the way it looks like in
Yeah.
some of the reports that we see and some of the graphics that we see. It's basically plaque that builds up around the neuron and the neurotransmitters, the tentacles that hang down from the neuron that spark the signals to communicate. And what happens is the plaque eventually takes over the whole neuron and the neurotransmitter, and eventually the whole thing disintegrates, and
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer a functioning cell in the body, in the brain. And so when, for example, with your great grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
she was able to walk, right? But you said she couldn't
Speak.
speak,
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of an interesting thing, because it's like, well, she has the motor function capability to walk, but not to speak. What's going on? And that is because that specific chain of neurons that control speaking were gone, but the other parts weren't, right? So we're
Mm-hmm.
not sure how it targets clusters in the brain.
Sure.
The neuron clusters, we're not really sure why that's happening, or I mean, how it goes about attacking different
Mm-hmm.
clusters in the brain, but it's in the works right now. We are at a
Mm-hmm.
level of funding Alzheimer's and dementia disease research like no other time in history. And so
Okay.
our organization specifically, we're the number one funder outside of governments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the number one funder outside of governments to fund disease research in this area. And so I think with how aggressive we're being and how aggressive we've been lobbying, our separate 501 organization that has the ability to lobby in DC, how aggressively we're lobbying for federal funding for research, we're close. We're going to have some more answers in the next decade. I can confidently say that. But right now we still don't know. I mean, one of the things they like to say when we know for sure is what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So if you stick to a heart healthy diet, it could kind of ward off dementia or Alzheimer's disease, we think. So that's one thing that we do promote is like the Mediterranean diet and heart healthy diets. And that we do know there's a correlation between brain health and heart health.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, that it's in tandem with what I've read. I'm obsessed with this book called Why We Sleep. And it's very interesting. And there's a whole part on there on how kind of demonstrating studies as to why the plaque builds up, right? Effectively, people not getting the last portion, portion of sleep,
the REM sleep, maybe is that
right? Something along the lines of you have so many cycles, REM cycles, right? 90-minute cycles over the night. And not every single cycle is equal. There's different things that happen at different ones. So, but if you're skipping the last one, if you're waking up early, right, and cutting your sleep short, effectively that's when the quote unquote power wash of the brain happens.
Yeah.
And the plaque, is kind of cleaned, right? And this is just I'm hoping that it's, he does read his research, so I'm hoping it's accurate, right? But
it could be, we don't know. That could be a very promising direction that could show results in the next decade. I mean, any researcher's game right now. I think there's a lot out there. This sounds really interesting.
Well, I will say the downside, and I don't know if you agree with me, but it mentions that, so you can't get just as you can't catch up with sleep. Once lost sleep is lost, right? So the downside is as well that you, if you build up plaque, and you start getting dementia, you can't reverse it, but you can slow it down.
Correct.
Or hopefully prevent it from happening beforehand, right? Is that something that researchers were of on your end, as far as what you all know? Like, it's not reversible, but it's you can slow it down and prevent it effectively.
So we can, you're correct. Yeah, that is correct, that it is non-reversible. As far as slowing it down, that is kind of the latest treatment therapy is the medication to slow down side effects. As of today, before this latest drug hit the market, the only medications that were out there only treated symptoms. It didn't actually treat the disease process itself, right? They were all psychotropics that would maybe help with agitation, anxiety, sleeping. None of them really addressed the root cause. So recently, with the newest drug medication that's out there, and I know it's kind of controversial, but it has, the FDA did approve it for slowing down, right? Giving Alzheimer's patients or people facing the disease a little more time. But I do think more medications are going to come in the future. I don't think this will be the last time we hear of a medication that can slow down the process. Now, I also know that there's a lot of research about complete prevention, right? And so as of right now, we don't have any complete prevention.
There's nothing conclusive that shows that that you can do that. I mean, there's a lot of controversy around this medication even, right? So definitely, if you're listening to this, consult with a doctor. We're not experts, right? I could read all the books and you can work at the organization.
Consult with your physician. Make sure it's a choice for you and your family. I would like to publicly say, since we are doing this, that the Alzheimer's Association is not in favor of the cost of this medication.
Mm.
We are actually advocating with the drug company Biogen to reduce the cost of the medication because we don't think that it is appropriate for patient
Oh,
use.
okay. What's the is it's just a ridiculous cost? Is that what that is? It's not
It's
accessible
it's completely ridiculous, not even a little ridiculous, complete $53,000.
for like one dose or for like full treatment?
No, for that's a good question. I believe it's for I believe it's for one treatment, but that, I mean, obviously that doesn't count for refill. So don't quote me on this. If someone's listening, please
Either
consult
way,
your
it's
physician or
ridiculous.
your pharmacist. I
That's a lot of
actually
money.
don't know. Regardless, it's a lot of money. If it's for one treatment or for one pill, I'm not actually sure. Forgive me. I am on the development side of things. I'm a fundraiser. But if anyone would like follow-up information, I will definitely send
Yeah,
some stuff to Oscar and he can get it out to you can get it out
everyone,
to your
to the
subscribers.
masses.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think, it's, and this is more informative, right? So you getting back to the organization, that's kind of obviously what the focus is, but the organization, what are some of your successes, I guess, and accomplishments in the community? What have you been able to do? Because it's a national organization, it's international, right? So I mean, when you focus maybe on New Mexico, what are some of your biggest accomplishments?
Yeah, so we're actually just national, and I love that you said international because I would love for our organization to go global, and I do think that might be in our future, but I
Hmm.
haven't heard any discussions about that. But
Okay.
so at a local level, so our whole organization's like slogan is like in communities, right? We always hear our national leadership talk about in communities. It's so important for our organization to be in our communities and working with them on a day-to-day basis. They
Hmm.
like to say you should actually never be in your office because you're a community-based organization. You should always be out in the community.
Hmm.
So specifically for New Mexico, I'll talk a little bit about my department. There are actually 5 different departments that have impact in the community. I'm development, so I oversee all of our fundraising events.
Hmm.
We fundraise the money to fuel the mission, right? To
Hmm.
pay for our concern and awareness campaigns, to
Yeah.
pay for our care and support programs that we offer, to pay for our advocacy efforts at the state legislature in Santa Fe, right?
Hmm.
So, but some of the accomplishments we do is growing our walk to end Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Getting the word out there to families that might not know about us, who need us, and letting them know, walk with us to celebrate your loved one,
Hmm.
to rally together, to stand up and say, I stand in the fight to end Alzheimer's, and to know that you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
So we've been growing our walk now, gosh, so in right before COVID, of course, the
Yeah.
COVID, the dreaded COVID,
Yeah.
right before COVID, we actually had our largest walk we've ever had. We had
Mm.
over 1,400 participants in our walk to end
Wow.
Alzheimer's in Albuquerque. Yeah, it was huge.
Okay.
And we were on track to get to about 1,800 in 2020, but of course COVID happened, so we weren't able to do our walk.
Hmm.
We are doing our walk this year though, so if you guys can, anyone out there can make it out, it's going to be at Mariposa Park on October 9th.
That's
um
Albuquerque's west side of, I think,
Albuquerque.
Taylor Ranch, right?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly, Taylor
Okay.
Ranch. And anyway, so our whole goal in development is just to grow our events and let people know and get them engaged in fundraising. But some
Hmm.
of the more significant impacts we've had on actual community members is going to be like our amendment of the Silver Alert legislation. So in 2018, 2018, no, it was early 2019. In the 2019 session, we were successful in getting the Silver Alert legislation amended to drop the age requirement to 55. Before that, I believe it was 65. And
Okay.
the reason that's significant is because we have a whole group of individuals facing this disease. It's called early onset, or
Hmm.
just people that are developing the disease a lot younger than
Hmm.
what most people would think. I mean, we even have people in their 40s and 30s that have Alzheimer's disease in the state of New Mexico, which
Yeah.
is like, what, in their 30s,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. That's us.
Right, that is us. So it kind of changes how you look at this disease, and you realize it's not a geriatric disease. It's a disease that
Yeah.
may not have any boundaries. We're not sure, right? So the Silver Alert legislation is huge for us, but also our care and support programs that we offer around the state. We do support groups, we do dementia education, we do
Mhm.
caregiver education, and we actually just recently, literally this morning, I had a meeting with Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office
Uh-huh.
to how we just partnered with them in a really huge way. I facilitated a multiple kind of pillar partnership where they're going to be training all of their sheriffs in dementia engagement.
That's awesome.
They started a walk team, and they're going to be
Mhm.
fundraising for us, and they're going to do a
Mhm.
PSA to get the word out there. So it's just like a full
Yeah.
mission partnership. And so
Mhm.
those are some of the things that I like to work on and that I'm proud of accomplishing for the organization, and how it's
Yeah.
having direct impact on the community. Oh, I forgot. I want to plug this, Oscar.
Yeah.
Literal
Yeah.
plug, sorry, but Marble is a huge part of Marble Brewery. Something that I'm proud of, I guess, that I've been able to facilitate is expanding our reach to a younger generation, to maybe a demographic that wouldn't think that Alzheimer's should matter to them, or what,
Mhm.
wouldn't think to get involved with us. So Marble's been instrumental in getting the message out there. They actually brewed a purple beer for us in 2019. It's called
Okay.
#EndAlls. And they sold out of that beer within like 2 weeks.
Okay.
It was amazing. And we're doing it again this year. They're going to launch #EndAlls on October 1st at all 3 locations. And a
Okay.
dollar of every beer sold is coming back to the association.
That's
Fingers
amazing.
crossed, we'll get it canned and one day maybe distributed to just get that like
Regularly.
huge awareness out there, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you all are doing and achieving, which is wonderful. But although at the same time, I'm sure there's been challenges, COVID being one of them. How has, this pandemic and COVID, and more specifically the isolation, impacted the organization, but also those with Alzheimer's?
right. Right. So we serve thousands of people across the state.
Yeah.
Most of those families have family caregivers. They're not people that are in memory care units or in long-term care facilities. A lot of them are at-home individuals. And so not having that regular access, I guess, in-person access to training, I think did have an impact on some of our families. We did pivot pretty quickly to offer virtual classes, but unfortunately,
Mm.
the attendance was just really low for
Yeah.
that. I think there's technology barriers, even like
Right.
internet,
Yeah.
broadband
Yeah.
barriers in some of our rural parts of the state that
Yeah.
we just have really, it's been a challenge, and we've done our best to try to get those individuals the support and help they need. But of course, it's impacted how we do support groups, how we do our dementia education classes, all of
Mhm.
that. And obviously it's impacted our events. We're an event fundraising organization, right? We depend on our
Mhm.
events to fuel our mission. And so across the board, just full impact on
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
families we serve, the individuals we serve, the partners we help. And then of course, our actual organization, our staff, we had to let go and downsize some of our team last year as well, just because the budget we weren't able to do what we
Yeah.
normally do.
Yeah. That
So
makes absolute sense. I mean, it really impacted a lot of stuff, and there's people that,
yeah.
just couldn't go with services. But I mean, what sort of services? I mean, you're mentioning a lot of little things here. It sounds like there's groups on how to kind of manage this stuff. What sort of stuff do you all offer for the community?
As far as like those types of
Service,
groups.
like services, yeah. What do you
Yeah.
provide? Yeah.
So we provide, like I said, we do a 1 hour education class for family caregivers or even professional caregivers. We
Hmm.
offer care consultations. That's where a family can come in and maybe they're new to the disease. Maybe they just got diagnosed and they don't know where to start. What do we do, right? So we
Hmm.
do resource referral. We do navigation, health system navigation, because that can be that can be one of the biggest barriers
Yeah.
to their quality of life and quality of care, is being able to navigate the health system appropriately and also get the proper, I guess,
Hmm. Hmm.
insurance, and making sure that they're
Oof.
covered for different. I mean, that's a whole other. We could
I
probably
mean,
have a
that's a
whole
lot. That's a lot.
podcast on that
There's
topic
very
alone.
little literacy when it comes to that and understanding of all
Right.
that. And people are so
Right.
scared to ask, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, they don't even know
Yeah.
where to begin. And
It's
so
okay. It's okay not to know.
it's okay not to know. We
Hmm.
offer a care consultation that you can come in and we can help navigate the system with you. We
Hmm.
also do resource referral for like financial planning, so that a lot of times families don't think about that as being an issue until it's time to like pay for care or figure out where the money is going to come from, right? As far as treatment or whatever it may be.
Right.
So we talk families through that. We help them. We refer them to different entities.
Hmm.
We also do have a 1-800 helpline that is available 24/7. That's out of our national office. But on the other line are trained clinicians that can help families through a crisis situation, that can refer them
Hmm.
anywhere in the United States, that are even available just to talk. If a loved one is overwhelmed and they don't have anyone to talk to, that line is available for people just to call and utilize
Hmm.
it. We also do respite reimbursement. So if you're a family caregiver and you need a day off, because everyone needs a day off,
Hmm.
maybe you have your own doctor appointments to tend to, you can apply with us for a respite reimbursement up to, I believe it's up to $500 a year, that will reimburse you to pay for a caregiver to come in and watch your loved one, take care of your loved one while you go out and, take some time for yourself. It's really important. I mean,
Hmm.
oftentimes way too often we see caregivers actually pass away before the person with the disease, because it's
Well.
usually a spouse who
Hmm.
themselves are probably having their own ailments that they're battling,
Hmm.
and they get kind of forgotten and lost in the system and in the process, and they end up passing away before the person with the disease.
It's so difficult,
I know.
and
Yeah.
and there's so many people that they aren't aware that these services exist, right? They don't know that there's help.
I think
Um,
that's the biggest thing. We
yeah.
are a really lean, when I say lean, we're a lean
Hmm.
organization in that, for example, I'm not going to name any other nonprofit names, but there are some nonprofits in central New Mexico that only serve central New Mexico, that have 30 plus employees at their office. We have a staff of 14 and we serve the whole state.
Hmm.
So we are trying to grow. And that's why I'm so grateful you asked me to be on, Oscar, because I think it is so important that
Yeah.
community members like yourself help us get the word out there, because we never
Yeah.
know who's going to hear it and who's going to need the resources and didn't know we were there. So we do our
Hmm.
best with our
Hmm.
budget, with our staff, to get the message out there that we exist and that the resources are out there and we can help,
Yeah.
but we can't do it alone. So thank you.
No, absolutely. And I'm grateful for the fact that you all exist. It's something that, again, is very important. Everyone goes through this to some extent. I firmly believe that everyone knows someone, that is impacted by this. So it's good work. How can people get involved um, to help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a great question. We are a volunteer health organization.
Hmm.
So we are always looking for volunteers to volunteer, to maybe lead a support group, or to get trained to teach a dementia education class, right?
Hmm.
Or to volunteer on one of our event planning committees, like the Walk to End Alzheimer's. So our
Hmm.
walk has a planning committee of about 30 people. And obviously, we're always trying to grow the walk. So we need more volunteers to join and bring their ideas and bring their networks and contacts to just help us expand that effort.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess the first way to get involved is to call us and volunteer. I will definitely send you all of my info. Do you want me to read the number now?
Yeah, absolutely. In
Yeah.
case the
Okay, let
people
me get
just
it.
just listening. Yeah. So the number, I'll also
Yeah.
link everything. But yes, if you're listening, here you go.
Yep. So I'm going to give out actually this is how involved in my community I am. I'm not going to give you guys a hotline or anything like that. I'm going to give you my personal line, because if you're wanting to volunteer, I definitely want to talk to you. 505-404-9849. And that is my office line. So I hope anyone that's out there who wants to get
Mhm.
involved, please call me. I will definitely make the time to take your call.
Okay.
And so that's the first way people can get involved. The other way they can get involved is just to fundraise for us. Plan a fundraiser,
Okay.
register for the walk, right? Start
Yeah.
a walk team with your company, with your friends, with your
Hmm.
colleagues, with
Hmm.
your family, and plan some really cool fundraisers. I mean, we have actually, we had one of our newest fundraising teams planned a garage sale, a community yard sale, and they made over $5,000 just by collecting people. They put it out on Facebook, like,
Yeah.
hey, donate your stuff. Do you have junk lying around? Donate it
Hmm.
to us, and we're going to do a community yard sale. And they collected, I mean, at least 25 tables worth of stuff. And then they did the community yard sale, and it made almost $5,000. So it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be that large, that large
Yeah.
scale of an event, but it could be as easy as a bake sale or a wine tasting at your house or something, and you give the proceeds to us. So that's another way you can get involved. And then
Hmm.
there's two other ways. I'm almost done. Sorry.
No, no,
um,
the more the merrier. Yeah.
Become an advocate. Join our AIM group, which is our Alzheimer's Action. I guess it's our
I thought it was a mer AOL Instant Messenger. That's not what that means.
no, no,
Not
yeah, it's
AIM.
AIM. I actually don't know what it means. This is, oh my gosh, our public policy director is going to kill me. I don't know what it stands for. It's AIM. It's our Alzheimer's. It's Action. So, oh, forgive me. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Basically, it's our
Hmm.
advocacy branch where you would pledge to be an advocate, and you would work with our public policy branch to talk to elected officials about the issues that the people facing this disease are facing, and then you try to help us get legislation passed. So we need as many
Mm,
advocates as we can get to stand up in support of bills, to
that's
sit
awesome.
down with their elected, representatives, or their state senators, or even our US congressmen and senators,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
talk to them about the issues that we're trying to address. So that's the third way. And then the fourth way, almost done, is to get involved with Trial Match. So we actually do clinical trials. And so if you have the disease, or
Mm,
someone that has the disease, and you want to
mhm.
be a part of the future as far as finding a treatment, cure, prevention, give us a call, join our Trial Match, and become one of our individuals that help us do our clinical trials.
That's
So those,
amazing. That's really awesome. There's a
yeah,
ton of stuff that people can
yeah,
do. That's
absolutely,
wonderful. And then
absolutely.
the walks is coming up right in October, you said?
Correct. Yeah, the walks
Okay.
are coming up across the state. We have 7 walks across the
Okay.
state.
Okay.
The one in Albuquerque, and I'm not sure where your listeners are, Oscar, so I won't go into
It
all of
varies.
them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can basically just visit alz.org/walk and look up New Mexico, and you can find all 7 walks there. So that's alz.org/walk, and you can find them all there. But the Albuquerque walk is going to be on October 9th at Mariposa Basin Park.
Okay. Okay. But if they go to that website, they can look in the respective cities and states as well.
Yep.
If that's
If you have
that's
listeners that
awesome.
are in other
Yeah.
cities in New Mexico, or even other states, right? You can go to
Yeah.
that website and find the area that you want to walk in, and see when and where that walk will be.
Perfect. That's wonderful, and I couldn't thank you enough to really for coming on here and sharing your experience with all of this, as well as what you do and what the organization does. It's really good work. It's needed work. So I know many of my listeners will really appreciate it, as well as myself.
Oh, Oscar, I'm very grateful. Thank you. It means not a lot just to me personally, as friends that go back to high school, but professionally, and also just the community, like
Mhm.
our constituents, our volunteers, our staff. We thank you for inviting me to come on and talk about our organization,
Yeah.
and ways that people can get involved, but also what our impact has been. So thank you so much. It's been so nice chatting with you and seeing you.
Absolutely. So we'll debrief hereafter. But if you guys are listening, thank you so much for listening. We love you guys. Take care. Bye.